Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Best Asian Beauties, a supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who's seen this show many times.
And I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 5, episode 15, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Written by Jeremy Carver, directed by John Showalter.
Have we seen this director before?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever heard this name before.
This is his first one.
Yeah, but he is
kept
pretty
directing
prolific.
until season 15. Yeah.
He directed Inherit the Earth. 1519.
How was that? Oh, he directed Golden Time.
Yeah. 1519 is the one where Jack says goodbye.
Yeah, kills God.
Yeah.
Well, they don't kill God.
I mean,
Chuck
there's
is
so
just
many...
on the ground crying or whatever.
Yeah, so many things happen in that episode, but primarily Jack says goodbye. It's kind of, sometimes I think about the fact that, like, when 1518 ended...
on Cass's phone?
No. Like,
okay.
Every time someone showed up for the last time in Supernatural in season 15, they would go on social media and do, like, a little, like, here's what I learned in the set of Supernatural. Goodbye to the show that's kind of bad. You know, like, they would do the whole shebang. But obviously, when Cass died, Misha Collins couldn't do that. Because people would be like...
to queer bait.
Yeah, people would be like, yeah, he's not coming back. And so, like, I did feel, like, kind of, like, horrible about that. Not for Misha Collins. I don't really give a shit. But, like, for, like, us. Because, like, the intentionality behind that is obviously to queer bait.
Yeah.
To, like, hold out hope for people. It's just, it's so fucked up. It's so fucked up what they did in season 15 of Supernatural. Well, anyway, this guy directed Inherit the Earth, the episode where Jack says goodbye, and also the guy who plays him goes on Twitter and says, bye, and everyone was like, see, Cass is gonna come back because this guy said bye, and Misha Collins didn't, meaning that he's going to show up in the later episode. God.
How do we know that like the network made that decision? What if Misha Collins made that decision?
I think the network. I mean, I don't know actually. But like there must be like a conscious thought behind like whatever. Also like there was this whole like idea controversy, I don't know, something that was like Misha Collins was supposed to show up at the last episode, and what people were saying was that he like made his kids watch the final episode, and it would be so fucking funny if he did that for like the episode he's not even in. So I don't know. So everyone was like,
I mean, it's a show that he worked on for like 11 years or whatever. Like, he could just be emotional about the finale, just independently of his role in it.
This is true. But also, like, I feel like the goodbye should have been in 1518 in a world where that wasn't, they weren't queer baiting to Helen Bank.
Oh, yeah. I agree that queer baiting was happening.
Yeah. I mean, isn't it so wild that, like, 1518 already happened? Like, Cass was already gay. And they were still queer baiting. Like, it's so unreal. Well, anyway.
Anyway.
This episode, what did you think of it? Like, let's start with that.
It is, like, fine. Like, I think it's, like, decently constructed. It's just seeing Karen in a waitress outfit, like, made me want to kill many, many people.
I think this episode is, like, it tries to interface with one of the main theses of the show of, like, monsters being, like, automatically bad. And, like, the show
And then it
has
said
tried.
they are.
Yeah, like the show has tried several times to be like, but like it's not fun. Like being monsters, blah blah. It's complex, but like they always fall short, right? So this is just like an episode that follows that. But also the way they try to both challenge that idea and also follow it is directly linked to the intense misogyny of the show.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. Supernatural is supernatural. And this is, I think, an episode so indicative of that. Like, because like sometimes like there would be like a misogynistic episode, but like the show is kind of aware of it. Not in a like, oh, we're aware of it, therefore we're not misogynistic way. More of like, they like it's obvious what they're doing, and they must know, and they don't give a shit. This one, I feel like maybe Jeremy Carver didn't even think that this is like a misogynistic portrayal.
Yeah, I think he was just like, this is what wives
This
do,
is just what
right?
women are
Okay.
like. Yeah, and I think that makes me even angrier. Like, obviously, both situations are, like, terrible. But, like, this one is, like, there's, like, a lack of awareness to it. And that just makes me go, like, you don't even consider this as possibly misogynistic. Like, how is that a thing? Anyway, I did enjoy the episode, though. Which is truly... I mean, it was fine. And I did enjoy seeing Bobby again. And this is our introduction to Sheriff Jody Mills.
Yes.
And she'll be here for forever.
Yeah. Do you think... Part of me thinks maybe Jeremy Carver is aware because he put in, like, a woman who has a gun in the episode 2 to be like, not all women only make pie. You know what I mean?
Do you think
Like,
that's true?
I think it's possible that Jody is meant to be a counteracting force to Karen.
Yeah, as a woman, the only two choices you have for who you should be is like a stereotypical 50s housewives or a cop.
Yes.
Like, no in between.
Exactly.
Oh, well.
And that's diversity.
Yeah. What did you know about this episode before going?
Nothing.
Nothing, really?
Yeah.
Like, nothing?
No.
Why? Really?
Yeah.
But you know about Karen.
I didn't know she came back.
Oh, you only know from, like, what has happened in previous episodes. That, like, Bobby had a wife that he killed. And that was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well...
And I thought Jody first appeared in, like, season, like, 9 or something.
You know, I also didn't expect Jody to be here. I know she shows up in season 5, but I thought her first appearance, Bobby and her were already, like, closely affiliated. And, like, okay, I remember the scene between her and Bobby where she's with, like, another cop who doesn't know about hunting. And then, like, she sends him out so that they can split because Bobby's in suspicion of something. And she sends the guy out to the salvage yard so she can inspect the house. And Bobby was like, "Why did you do that?" And she was like, "Well, so I can be the one to look at the house. I'm sure you're hiding terrible things in here." And he was like, "Well, I'm also hiding bodies in the yard. So, like, what now?" Which I thought was incredibly funny, and I thought her first scene.
I don't know why so much of it is about Dean being depressed when I don't think that's relevant to this episode at all.
The dance sequence, yeah? Yeah. There's no... Everything is about, like, I'm tired. Please. Whatever he says last episode.
It's not relevant. Like, I don't see any place this comes up.
For some reason, I thought that the next episode after that was like the one where Cass tosses him to the wall.
Point of no return.
Yeah, that one. I thought it was gonna be Point of No Return. Obviously, it's not. Also, oh, another thing that I thought about. This is 5:15. We are so near the end, and like nothing is happening. I mean, things are happening, but also like
I just
nothing
can't
is
believe
happening.
Death being risen 5 episodes ago has only just started to be anything.
You're right. He was written 5 episodes ago. That's crazy. Well,
Like, I don't understand, like, the order of these things. Like, I don't think this episode is, like, specific to being after, like, Song Remains the Same or, like, My Bloody Valentine or anything. Like, I don't know why this wasn't moved up.
yeah. Also, like, it is quite fun that now that, death shows up in small town South Dakota. At least they gave a reason versus, like, all of the other times other important
True.
apocalypse figures were just like, oh,
They're just hanging out.
yeah, like, I'm War and I'm going to be in this small town. Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, so we start the episode with, like, this
Corny.
guy. Yeah, watching television. It's storming outside. He's, has a mullet. And then he hears noise outside. He tries to open it, blah, blah, blah. And eventually what happens is there's a guy who's, like, all muddied up that kills him.
Yeah, I mean, we see this guy climb out of his grave first.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah. So we know it's the dad rising to
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, and they're trying to do this, like, very annoying thing where the guy who's being killed is watching a nature documentary and, like, everything that the nature documentarian is saying is supposed to correspond to what's happening in his life. Like,
Yeah.
oh, the wildebeest is scared now, or whatever the fuck. And it's like, that was not effective horror for me. Like, whatever. Who gives a fuck?
Like, so supernatural. Like, that is, like, if you told me out of context of anything about a scene that plays out like this, I think I can very, very, very efficiently be like, yeah, that's a scene from Supernatural.
Yeah.
It's so supernatural. And it is quite stupid.
I mean, I'm sure things like this happen in all sorts of corny horror, but Supernatural is the corniest of the horror. We cut to Sam and Dean, and they're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and trying to get into contact with Bobby about a case, but he's not picking up. So they're interviewing someone named Digger, who lives in the trailer near the guy who got killed.
And Dean, does this whole bit where he's like, wait, your name's Digger? Who gave you that name? And then, like, the guy's like, well, I did. And Dean's like, no, you can't give yourself a nickname. What's wrong with him?
Transphobia.
It literally is transphobia. Also, like, that's just so annoying. Like, if somebody told you, like, call me this, are you, like, Dean? Whatever.
Yeah. Well, he's transphobic. Digger says, who died and made you queen? Which, I think is him responding to Dean's transphobia. No, it's just some kind of a misogynistic or homophobic joke, but whatever. So,
Is it really?
yeah, I don't know exactly what. I think he's calling Dean fussy or something. Yeah, like
okay.
he's doing something regarding like he's saying queen because it's demeaning in a way that who died and made you king isn't.
Yeah, okay.
He describes the murder. Yeah, so the guy covered in mud who killed the other guy, his name is Clay, and he died 5 years ago. And Digger says that Benny Sutton, the guy he killed Clay initially, so obviously he would want revenge. In enters Jody. She looks so young in this. I feel like I've only seen her in, like, season 10 and beyond gift sets, so yeah.
I think this is, like, perhaps the only season, or maybe even the only episode where she has hair this
that's
long.
like long. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that adds to the youthful look.
It is like so fun to me. Like later, she is, you know, doting over her son, and there's like a shot of her from like her son's perspective, and she has Mary's hair but in black, and I was like, is this just their like a young mother hair?
Yeah, I think so. She comes in and introduces herself. She's a sheriff, and Sam and Dean say that they're FBI. She's suspicious of all of this, and she asks to call their supervisor. So she calls, and Bobby picks up, and she goes, like, wait, is this Bobby Singer?
Love that.
And it's very fun. And Bobby's like, no! And she's like, okay, yeah. So, apparently, Bobby's reputation around town is that he gets a lot of drunken disorderlies and also mail fraud. What's mail fraud mean in this circumstance?
I think mail fraud is like kind of close to identity theft, which Bobby does quite a bit. So like I think it's in association with identity theft.
Yeah. So several people in Sioux Falls mentioned that like Bobby's like the town drunk. But like I don't know, it's strange to me because I feel like in Supernatural we see them drink but we never see them drunk.
Yeah.
And I think is it just part of the show's general like alcohol is cool thing.
That like we never see them drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, like I feel like we never really got the impression that Bobby has ever been a public menace, as Jody puts it, like because of his drinking or just because of anything. Also, he's like in the scrapyard. Like, what could he be doing that other people would notice? But yeah,
Well, maybe
I
he
don't
goes
know.
out.
True, he could go out. We never see him go out though. Like he's never at the club.
So sad.
So sad. So she just shuts down their whole questioning people operation. And they're like, okay.
They're not like okay. They are very visibly uncomfortable in a way that was quite funny. They go to Bobby's house, and Dean makes a whole point about how the house smells like soap and has been cleaned. And he asked Bobby who's been cleaning. But just like
Bobby's hair is also smoothed back.
Bobby's hair is slicked back. Also, like, it is very fun that, like, you know, they spent the beginning of that previous scene being like, oh, Bobby's not answering our phone. He's ignoring, like, not ignoring us. They're like, maybe he's somewhere. Like, where is he? He's not home. And then, like, you know, Jody calls. And it's so obviously that he's home and ignoring Sam and Dean. That's super fun. Dean asks about why Bobby's holed up here when there's a case 5 miles down. And Bobby's like, yeah, well, it's not a case. I checked it out. It's nothing. And, you know, he says that like, oh, Digger Wells, he's the town drunk, so you shouldn't believe him. The storms, well, those are not actually omens. It's just lightning season or whatever. So, yeah. Sam and Dean are like, well, we should go. And they stop over the cemetery for a bit on Dean's insistence. Like, Sam doesn't want to do this. But Dean's like, well, we should just check it out because, you know, maybe Bobby's wrong. And they dig up a grave. And afterwards, they realize that, like, there's nothing there.
Yep.
And so they visit the guy's house.
Yeah, Clay's.
He is there. And he's alive. And also, he's, like, a human being. Like, he's a person who is very aware of everything. And it's not, like, I don't know, Sam and Dean's idea of what a zombie should be.
Yeah, he's a bit pale, but that's it. He's acting like he's just been around on Earth for all the time that he has been.
Yeah. I think what's the previous conception of zombie in Supernatural? The Croatoan, right?
Yes, I guess that is.
And also that lady who gets raised and then like
and
the guy wanted to
play
fuck
with
her.
dead things.
Yeah. I think Croatoan then isn't it's like out like I don't know. Croatoan is zombie in the sense of like gets infected and then whatever. Like World War Z movie type zombie. And this one is Rise from the Dead. The guy like they encounter him via breaking into his house. He's telling them that like, yeah, I did kill the guy because he killed me. What am I supposed to do? Which is so fun. But he said like, yeah, but like, let's keep it down. I'll do whatever you like. Like, you can take me to jail. And he was like, we're gonna take you to jail? And he was like, yeah, well, what else are you gonna do? Which is so true.
Yeah.
He's like, I just don't want to wake up the kids. But then his wife comes down and he's like, yeah, we're going now. They're going to take me somewhere, whatever. So they go out and Clay is like walking in front of them and Sam and Dean are behind. And then Dean just like straight up pulls out a gun to shoot this guy. And Sam like protests.
In the middle of the street.
In the middle of
like
the street.
right in front of the house where his kids live.
Yeah.
Like have a little class.
Exactly. And Sam protests a little bit, but like not that much. It's so funny.
Dean, don't.
Because like the way Supernatural frames this is like Dean is correct. Right? Like this episode ends and the framing is like Dean is correct.
Is right the
but
whole time.
He could have been nicer about it. Like he could have had more of a heart about it. Which is so funny. Like, I think that's a hilarious conclusion to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, because like this entire episode, they are showing us Dean, but like super angry, and Sam being like, "No, Dean," but you know, like Sam's protestations are half-hearted. It like the conclusion was like Sam's values and Dean's values should meet in the middle, except Sam's values are like, we shouldn't kill the guy, and Dean's values are like, we need to kill the guy, and there's like no middle ground between dead and alive. So like, the guy's just dead anyway. Love that. Yeah.
Lovely.
Sheriff Jody Mills shows up and saves Clay by, you know, telling Sam and Dean to drop their guns. And yeah, Dean's like, well, what do you know? The guy you said was dead and couldn't kill someone? This is him. And yeah, Sheriff Jody. I keep on saying Sheriff Jody Mills the full fucking name, but like, yeah, Jody's like, well, okay, and he's like, well, what do you mean and? And Jody's like, whatever he is or isn't, you don't get to shoot him in the middle of the fucking street.
And she's framed as wrong for this. Later, Sam and Dean in jail are like, I can't believe she's getting paid off by the zombies. Like, Supernatural's a crazy show.
I can't believe
I can't believe that Sheriff Jody Mills didn't let us shoot a random guy dead in the middle of the street.
I can't believe the police are being funded by Big Zombie. Crazy. Well,
yeah.
Anyway.
And they were right. Like, the police were being funded by little 4-year-old boy zombie. God. What a horrible show.
Anyway, like, Clay was like, wait, you were gonna shoot me? I can't believe you were gonna kill me. And because like, I'm a zombie. Yeah. And he says, I'm a tax surveyor. So true.
Real.
Sam and Dean who don't pay taxes should need to be taken out back and shot. It's the conclusion of this scene.
Exactly. So they're in jail And this is where they talk about how Jody is being paid off by Big Zombie. They see Bobby and Jody chatting it up, seeming friendly in the police station. Bobby has bailed them out. He starts talking to them, and he says that he was aware that the dead started rising over town 5 days ago. Yeah, Sam goes, so you knew about this? And Dean goes, I think what Sam meant to say is, you lied to us? Like, this whole episode really is, like, Dean's upset that Bobby doesn't love him like a son. No, and Sam's like, Bobby's acting just like he loves me like a coworker.
Later on, when he goes, we're his family.
I know.
This guy.
That is his wife. Like, she's also his family. Like,
and also, like,
he thinks that they should be more important than his wife, which, like, I think you're probably on par, but
I mean, I think for me, the most egregious part, like, it reveals Dean's hand. Like, it reveals what Dean actually is upset about. Like, he's not upset that, like, I don't know.
Bobby's gonna die.
Yeah, he's upset that Bobby's not choosing them. They're his family. They're like sons to him or whatever. My God.
Yeah, I mean, that's very Dean. Like, I liked that part. Like, you are sick in the head. Congrats.
I know, but, like, it is hilarious. Also, later on, like later on when Dean tells Karen, like, he's like a father to us. And, like, Karen should have said, well, I am his wife. I'm not.
What?
Not only is he like a husband to me, he literally is my husband. So, like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah. Well, Dean said no to amatonormativity this episode, and I do applaud him for that. Bobby's saying, like, these zombies aren't like other zombies. Like, here, I'll show you. So he takes them to his house. And then Karen Singer walks out. And when I say she's in a waitress outfit, like, she's in a waitress outfit. I mean, like, the Supernatural costume designers had, like, a box for, like, outfits for waitresses in diners in Supernatural. And instead of getting Karen anything else, like, instead of spending money, they went to the waitress box, and then they took out the first waitress dress and the first waitress apron, and then they put it on her.
The thing is, like,
it's sick. Like, yeah.
There is an idea here of, like, the fact that Karen is, like, the only character wearing bright clothes. And she does look out of place in this very dark house, right? Mm-hmm. You could do that with literally any other piece of clothing, though. Like,
yeah, just put her in floral prints.
Also, like, this is where Bobby lived previously also. Uh-huh. And also, Bobby has always been a mechanic. Like, Bobby has always lived here and worked in the salvage yard. The place where cars go to die. But, like, I feel like, and I mean, I don't know how to word this without sounding like I'm stereotyping women, but, like, I feel like the fact that she looks like she doesn't belong here isn't right. Like, that shouldn't be how she is portrayed. I don't know, like, earlier when Clay was in the house, he looked like he was just in the house. Like, yeah, that's a guy who would be in this house. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But, like, the fact that Karen, like, looks so out of place, I'm like, well, she also lived here.
Right.
She also lived here in this house in the middle of the salvage yard. And this was also her property, if that's how the relationship was like. Like, that was probably also her shop. You know what I mean, right? Like, the fact that they very distinctively make it like, this is Bobby and this is a wife. Like, this is our perception of a wife. Like, I don't know.
From 1950 too.
Yeah, and also like I suppose it's like about like, oh, like what this represents for Bobby is domesticity and life before holiday.
Ugh.
And like she's a character. Like she's not supposed to be a representation of whatever the fuck. Like she's a person in the screen. I mean, they also do this obviously for like Lisa so far in the show. Like in season 6, I do think she becomes like a character, a person. But like it's just like everything that you could be like Supernatural could have done this small thing differently. And it's like, well, if they did this bigger thing differently, and the bigger thing being a misogynistic show, then they wouldn't have to even have these small things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just Supernatural is so wild. Anyway, yeah, she's setting up the dinner table, and like, it's so like, oh, you didn't tell me that you're bringing guests. I'm gonna serve them food as well. And this is the part that really pissed me the fuck off. She starts serving them like a waitress.
Yeah.
He's serving them food, and Dean's like, "Oh, this is really good." And there's a gag about like Sam being like, "Why the fuck are you saying that, Dean?" And Dean being like, "No, well, it really is very good." But anyway, that funny moment ends with Bobby dismissing her.
Yeah.
Hello?
It's so bad. I just like, what kind of marriage dynamic was like present before this? Like, also, like, okay, like, it's implied that this is like her old clothing that Bobby kept. So like what, like, was this like the world's most extended like role play? Like, what is this? Like, this just happened like for real? Like when you guys were married?
Also, like, later on, we are given an explanation for why she spends the entire time cooking, which is that when she got back, it's all she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's still like so messed up. Like even if, like Bobby specifically being like, just leave us for a bit. It's like, I hate that so much, because there is a version of this scene where they have dinner, and or whatever this is. Like, I mean, it already started. Like, Dean already was doing the like, oh, this is like really good, and like digging into his food, and Sam being like, Dean, shut the fuck up. Like, that is like a funny idea to make a dinner scene about. And then the dinner ends, and then like, they go their own places or whatever. And Sam and Dean and Bobby talk. Like, that is like something that they could have done this episode. Instead, they dismiss her from the dinner table.
Yeah.
She doesn't even...
She cooks all of that.
She cooks all of that. There's no plate for her. She's literally just serving these 3 guys. Yeah. It's so egregiously bad.
Yeah. I hate it. And also, if there was a dinner scene, like, maybe they could have, like, connected with her more. Because the entire tragedy of the episode is, if we murder this woman, Bobby will be sad about it. But, like, what about her?
Yeah. And, like, I think what they were, again, trying to do is they're trying to reserve the conversation for later. But, like, it doesn't even matter anyway. Like, they could have had that conversation later, because that conversation was specifically about Bobby not being there. So, like, I feel like they can have a conversation with the Bobby there, and this will be a completely different conversation anyway. And I don't know, it's so stupid. What a stupid show. What a stupid episode. Jeremy Carver, I hate this episode.
Who wrote Last Holiday? Jeremy Adams. Right, that was the Scooby Natural person, right? Like, he only wrote Scooby Natural. He wrote Scooby Natural, Last Call, and Last Holiday. All right, well.
Last Call is
I don't know
one
what
where...
that is.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the lead
one with Lee. Yeah.
10 years apart and Supernatural still. is a TV show.
I think actually, you know what? I'll defend Last Holiday. I'll defend Mrs. Butters. I think that's her name.
Yeah, no, I think that there is more interesting stuff going on with her than with Karen.
And especially because, like, her concept was, like, she was... I forgot what, like, creature she was. But, like, she was kept there by the Men of Letters specifically to do that task.
Or something?
I think she was, like, I forgot, but... Yeah, maybe. But,
some sort of woodland sprite.
Yeah, and like the point was that like she was playing that role because of like, previous misogyny that doesn't exist anymore in season 15 of Supernatural.
Yeah. Dean says that Bobby is crazy, and he calls Karen an American Girl zombie making cupcakes in your kitchen. And Bobby goes, first of all, that's my wife, so watch it. Something about that just annoys me incredibly much. Bobby's like, no, that's like her for realsies. I did all the tests on her. Like, she is human and she's back.
Yeah.
And
she was cremated, so it's not like a body rising from the grave.
Apparently in the last 5 days, about 20 people rose from the grave. Okay, I think later I counted how many people attacked Dean and Bobby, like, in the scrapyard, like, plus all the other zombies we see, and I think it's more than 20 total, so Bobby hasn't been keeping track very well.
Yeah. Also, like, it's so irresponsible. Giving this list is so irresponsible.
Yeah, he gives a list of the names of people to send, like, bro, like, you just gave them a kill list.
Yeah.
And he mentions that Jody's little boy came back.
This is like actually the part of the episode that I did feel like something about the like Jody and her kid. Also, like later on when Bobby like talks to Karen, I did feel some emotions, but like they were all undercut by the fact that like Karen's portrayal is so misogynistic.
Yeah.
But yeah. I like that's I think what I find egregious about this episode as well. I've already said many things that I find egregious, but like it's a good concept. Like it's kind of basic. It's like a basic concept, but there are ways to make it like good. And there are some times where they touch upon those things, but there's just so much everything else that it's like, well,
yeah. They also just never mention how many times Sam and Dean have risen each other from the dead. Also, like, that seems like it would be relevant.
This is true. Yeah. Sam literally was risen from the dead, and Dean literally was risen from the dead.
Yeah. Bobby says that from the Book of Revelation, this is because death was risen 5 episodes ago, and he did this, but they don't know why. Dean's like, if death did this, then all of these people are probably zombies and it's bad and we have to kill all of them. And then...
A demon raised your brother, man.
Yeah. Well...
So, like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Death... whatever. Like, the whole point of that is, like, it's a neutral
death should be a
thing.
neutral, yeah. I agree. But not... Supernatural is so weird because it's, like, obsessed with everything being natural, despite the fact that it's called Supernatural. So it's like all of these zombies were like unnaturally risen from the dead, so automatically they have to go bad and they have to be evil and we have to kill them and blah blah blah. But like they hate death so much.
Yeah, and they hate salads, so like I don't know.
For real. Very confusing. But yeah, whatever. The idea of what is natural and what is not doesn't like come from any factual basis. It's just employed as a value system in order to kill the things that you don't like.
Yeah.
But Bobby is suddenly like, he's like, this is the perfect marriage now because she doesn't remember when she was possessed by a demon or when I killed her. And also she hums when she cooks. And, like, that I like loved her for that like so much. So like you should feel bad for me, and then they do feel bad for him.
I mean, I feel like you mischaracterized that portion of Bobby's
I mean, it's meant to be emo. He does say it, but like sad.
The point isn't that like I love her for her. It was like this was like an aspect of my life that I thought I would never have again.
Yeah.
And it was like this benign thing that wasn't like even wonderful because she was stone deaf, but it was my life, and then it was gone, and now I have it again. And why is that so bad? And like I understand.
Yeah. Well, he is not the Whistler by Mary Oliver, so maybe if he can be the Whistler by Mary Oliver, he can come back and say that to me again. Exactly. But yeah, it's like not a bad scene. Like I think it is. It succeeds at the whatever emotional thing it's supposed to do.
The thing that they were doing were like the door is like slightly ajar to the kitchen, and while Bobby is doing his speech of like she's hot. You can see her buzzing around in the back. It's so.
Supernatural really thinks people like can't hear beyond a 5-foot radius.
Once you pass a door, like a threshold of some sorts, even if it's blasted open, like you can't hear the other room. You just can't hear it. It's impossible.
You can't. There's a scene in Interview with the Vampire, like season 2, episode 6, where like there's literally just a curtain between Louis and Claudia and like Armand outside, and like they're whispering to each other, and it's like he can hear you, you know, like he definitely can. It's a curtain. It doesn't even reach the floor. His point is that like the dead rise during the apocalypse, and like how do we know that that's automatically bad? Which I think is a fair point.
Yeah.
But Dean says, well, if you were us, like, you would, like, kill Karen so hard and so raw. And Bobby's like, yeah, I would, but please don't. Please, please.
I mean,
who would even be coming
like,
back? Jess?
I mean, probably Mary.
Yeah.
John.
Mary. If it was John, Bobby would have shot without, like, thinking.
No, I think I do find interesting the idea that like this happened and Bobby's first instinct was to hide it from Sam and Dean because he knows them. Mm-hmm. And like the thing is, I don't think Bobby would have, like when Dean was like, if this was us, what would you do? I don't think Bobby would do this. Like,
he would.
I do think there is.
He locked Sam up in 421. He would do anything. This is true.
The thing about Bobby is like you can only think positive about things about him just because we don't see him often.
Yeah.
Bobby wouldn't do that. Well, that's because you didn't see Bobby in his doing that era. Sam and Dean are at a diner talking about like what the fuck are we gonna do now? And Dean was like, I'm not gonna let Bobby, like, I'm not gonna leave Bobby in the house with the Bride of Frankenstein, blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like, what, you're just going to walk in there and shoot her, blast her head off, or blow her skull off, whatever. And Dean's like, well, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like at least, like, use lethal injection, Dean. Like, that truly his position is just, like, be nice about killing her.
Yeah, Sam doesn't argue with this at all. He's just like, yeah, well, I'm gonna go to the town.
Nothing I can do about it. Okay.
I'm sorry, Dean. And, yeah, Dean goes for it. He's, like, in a salvage yard. The place where cars go to die.
Where's that from?
What?
Where's that from?
No, it's just because like salvage means to kill here. So it's like this is the place where cars go to die.
Oh, yeah.
He's like leaning against a car, just looking at their house. Doesn't even try to be inconspicuous or anything. Like he's just in there. And then he's shocked when Karen sees him. And Karen does. She shows up beside him. And she's like, yeah, come inside. There's a lot of pie. Go eat. And Dean's like, I don't think Bobby wants me to go inside. And she's like, well, it's going to be a real secret then, yeah? And then, yeah, she comes in. They eat pie. And there's so much of it. Like, there's just, like, tens, dozens maybe of pies in the room. And, yeah, Dean's like, well, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, well, since I got back, I can't stop baking. I don't know what it is.
Did they explain this at any point later?
I think what it is maybe they realized that it was so weird that maybe they're being misogynistic. They were like, well, if she wanted to do it, then it won't be.
But like, it's like too many. Like, I thought that they were gonna go for a thing where it's like, it's not actually them with their memories. It's like a parody of them that was like created in like their loved one's mind, or like blah blah blah. But like they don't seem to be going for that. And like Jodie's like kid seems to be like normal. Like, he doesn't seem to be a parody of himself or anything. So like, is it really just that she wanted to bake pie so much that she made like that many of them? Like, that's it?
Yeah.
Is it supposed to like tie into how like the zombies get really hungry? But she doesn't eat anything. She just serves them.
I was trying to think about this, and I was like, is this like she's displacing her trauma from when she died or whatever? Yeah. Like, is this a way to get away from Bobby? Because like you know, like their relationship, she's hiding things from him and he's hiding things from her. So like there must be some discomfort there. Maybe she prefers like being in the kitchen where she doesn't have to interact. But this doesn't seem
being
to be
in the kitchen where she as a woman belongs.
God. And we all know Bobby is not gonna go in there because, you know, he's a man and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But there's no...
Yeah,
no,
remember how the only time we see Bobby cook is when he's grilling sausages? Like a man?
God. The politics of, like, a food in Supernatural is truly so fascinating. Yeah, but there's absolutely no, like, reason given behind this. It's just something she wanted to do, I guess. Well, yeah, Dean asks, like, well, if you're doing all this, how do you sleep? She says, I don't sleep. Must be the excitement. And Dean's like, or being dead. And he's, like, doing his, like, stony face. You know the one? Where he's like, I'm gonna clench my jaw to show that I know what you're up to and I'm mad at you. And I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. And she says, I know you don't trust me. You're here because you're keeping an eye on Bobby and on me. I know Bobby's not the same mild-mannered scrap dealer I married. You hunt things. I'm a thing. I get it. I hate that, like, whenever they have, like, a monster, quote-unquote, and then, like, you know, it's just a guy. It's just a person. And then, like, it's like the narrative feels the need for the character itself to like situate themselves as a monster. Like, do you get what I mean? Like
they're confirming Sam and Dean's worldview by saying that?
No, particularly. More of like the perspective then becomes like, I know what I am. I get why you want to kill me. Like, what about a monster that's like, why do you want to kill me? Like, shut the fuck up.
I mean, that's what I'm a taxpayer was for.
Oh my god, you're right. Yeah. I think, like, I guess it's like, because it's in the same episode, I'm like, well, Karen is the one we're supposed to believe, I guess.
Dilemma over.
But, like, I suppose, like I want, like, an episode where it's just, like, a monster and like all of them, or like maybe there's just one of them who's like, well, you shouldn't do that, like, I don't think you should do that, and then we interact with it like meaningfully. I think they do this too with Leonore. I forget her name. I think it's Leonore.
Yeah, the vampire.
Yeah, where she's like, yeah, I'm a vampire, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know, like somebody you want to kill telling you that, like, it's okay that you want to kill me, I get it. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Girl, have some self-preservation skills. And Dean says his iconic line, like, Sam and I, we would never let anything happen to Bobby. He's like a father to us. He could have said he's like a father to me and a boss to Sam. That would be more
Literally.
like a begrudging coworker to Sam. And yeah, Karen's like, well, yeah, and he's very lucky for that, but you're not the only one looking out for him. And then Karen reveals that she actually remembers everything. She remembers, like, being possessed and, like, being killed by Bobby and everything. And that she knows he feels guilty. And Dean asks, so why don't you tell him?
I don't understand the importance of this. Like, what is the relevance of whether or not she remembers to whether or not she should die?
I don't think that's it. I think this is just, like, she's saying this to be like, I'm looking out for Bobby as well.
Okay.
So, like, I think it's like a testament of, no, I actually do care about him and love him and etc.
Why?
So,
Why does Dean want her to tell him that she remembers, though?
I don't think he wants to. I think he's just asking why she doesn't want to.
Okay.
Yeah, and Karen says, I don't think I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you've never been in love.
What about Cassie?
My job is to bring him peace, not pain.
It's so funny. I hate this sentence. I hate it so much.
I do. I also as well. He killed you, man. Have some self-preservation skills.
Like, a relationship is, like, about, like, I think it's not just about, like, making sure the other person has the best possible life no matter what.
Also,
like, there's, like, it's a partnership. Like, you're in things together. Like, you struggle through things together. There's, like, respect and trust or whatever the fuck. Like, this is such a weird, no, motherly
exactly.
view of what
Like,
a wife should be.
And then, like, you know, like, Karen being like, I don't think you've ever been in love. Because, like, when this scene happened, I was like, I don't think that's how it works. Like, I don't think a marriage should be like this. And also, like, if the issue is that he's guilty, pretending that you don't remember, I don't think that really, like, addresses it.
Yeah, you can just be like, I remember and I get it. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
we can move past this. Let's talk about it.
I feel like that's going to help with the guilt more. And also the idea that, like, the opposite of, like, the only choices here is, like, peace or pain.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. But, like, I feel like they really did, like, trap us in this mind. Because, like, Karen goes, like, I'm gonna guess you've never been in love.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you disagree with me, like, you've never been in love, and all the times you thought you were, like, you were lying to yourself.
Yeah, well, maybe I've never been, Karen, but I still think this is kind of a fucked up marriage to have.
Just the idea of, like, a wife bringing you peace is so irritating, because it's, like, it's about becoming, like a non-presence. Like, I feel like peace is, like, the absence of things.
Anything
like,
happening.
if you're just around to bring about the absence of things, like, it's just very irritating, like, combined with the whole, like, she cooks and she doesn't eat and she gets dismissed from the room stuff. Yeah. Like, she's
so
not, like, your
up?
AI house assistant. Like, your AI house assistant can bring you peace. Like, your wife is, like, a person.
Yeah. And also, like, I just find it so funny that, like, the house smelling like soap was supposed to be, like, foreshadowing that Mommy has a woman in the house now. So funny.
Yeah, you know what? When I first saw the "Did you clean" line, I was like, oh my god, Bobby and Jody are fucking, and he cleaned up so that when she came over, it would be nice.
No,
but yeah,
you know, my thought process was like, it smells like soap. Did, like, Bobby clean and then not, like, do it well? Like, why does it still smell like soap?
So Sam has been out and about on the town. Earlier he looked through a window and saw Jody and her husband, like, cuddled up with their son and reading him a story. Now he's gone to another house on the list. And someone named Mrs. Jones has been risen from the dead. So he goes in, and there's this old woman who's, like, really sick and, like, coughing a lot.
Yeah, and there's blood on, like, the threshold of the house.
Yeah.
So, like, he already is like, oh, something's wrong here.
Yeah. And Sam just is very icked out by her and by the entire house. And she keeps gesturing for him to come closer, and he's all like, ew, okay. And then when he finally gets close enough, she attacks him and, like, spits all over him and shit. And then he notices that someone else in the house is dead, and it looks like someone, like, ate their torso. Yeah. And then he shoots Mrs. Jones
square
with a gun, yeah. Square in the mouth.
Into her mouth, right?
Yep. So that's Sam. After this, Sam and Dean are back at Bobby's and talking about how, well, it looks like the people who rose from the dead do go bad eventually and eat people. Sam and Dean are like, Bobby, like, please, let us kill your wife, please, please. And Bobby pulls out a gun and just rests it on his lap, and he tells them
to fuck off.
Get out of my house. Fuck off. And Sam goes, or what? You'll shoot? And yeah. Bobby says that if his wife turns, then he will handle it his way. So Sam and Dean scram, and they talk outside. And Dean's like, he's crazy. And Sam goes, it's his wife, Dean. And Dean goes, but we're his family! Which we have already discussed. But
truly a funny ass man.
Yeah. And Sam's just like, I did gaff. Because he doesn't want to have the, well, I'm his coworker discussion with Dean. They decide to split up because Dean's just focused on protecting Bobby from Karen. And Sam says, okay, I guess I'll head to town and rescue everyone then. And Dean's like, yep, go do that. And Dean suggests that he team up with Jody.
So, yeah, Jody's kid is feverish and sick. He's, like, lying on the couch, which, I mean, at the time I was like, that's so stupid. Why is he not in his room? And then I was like, does he have a room? Like, he doesn't sleep. And also, they must have, you know, removed his room after he died, so.
Well, repurposed it. I don't think you would remove it.
Yeah, no, they demolished it completely. Yeah, he's like, I'm so hungry. Jody's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make you something. Sit here. And then in the kitchen, her husband is buzzing around on the phone. And he's saying that, like, oh, the kid's temperature is 111 degrees. I don't know what's happening, blah, blah, blah. Jody's like, can you give this to him, the food? And so he does. And as Jody takes on the call, I don't know, she hears a thud. Is that it? She finds her son, Owen, eating her husband.
Slay.
And that is pretty brutal. So, like, the kid, like, stands up and starts going towards her. And, you know, he's not like the lady from earlier. Like, he's not wildly attacking Jody. But Sam shows up and takes Jody out and outside. Like, he tries to tell her, like, you know, you have to get your shit together. You have to focus because the whole town's in danger. I can, go in, take your kid out back and shoot him if you like. And she goes, okay. And then he does. And we do get like a shot of Jodie's face as she hears the gunshot.
Meanwhile, in Bobby's house, so Dean's hanging out outside with his guns. And Bobby's trying to protect Karen by telling her to stay away from the windows because he knows Dean's gonna be trying to kill her. And then she starts collapsing and coughing, and apparently she has a fever. And she says that she just needs something to eat, and then she'll be fine. So she's in a sick bed and just talking about being hungry. And Bobby's just being like, I don't know, doting husband, whatever. She tells him that she can feel herself starting to turn. And tells him that he should just shoot her. And Bobby refuses. So Karen says that she remembers being possessed and Bobby killing her. Which I guess is her trying to convince him. And Bobby says that he can't do it again. And she also says that when she got risen, there was a very thin skeleton-like man at the grave who told her to give Bobby a message.
Yeah.
And Bobby goes, why didn't you tell? Yeah.
This is the reason why she's telling Bobby now. Because, like, you need to hear about this, Bobby. But, like, there was a point where I was like, is she telling him that, like, you killed me already before? I'm pretty sure you can do it again.
Do it again. Like, it can't be that bad. Like, you were able to in the past.
Which I thought was so funny. My God.
I did view it as sort of a convincing tactic.
In
like,
what way?
I think it's I don't know. I think it was like I didn't tell him because, like, I wanted to bring him peace and ensure the longevity of our marriage. And I think that by telling him, I'm signaling to him that, we can't continue living like this because he'll feel so bad the whole time. I think that there is something about how, like this
playing
this
into the guilt.
fact should, this fact should end our marriage, and that would help him be able to shoot me more. Bobby asks why she didn't tell him about death before. And she says, you've seen so much. I just wanted to see you smile. Huh?
So funny, stupid.
Okay.
Also, like,
Bobby
the idea of, like, you learning that I lied to you will make you kill me. Like, I know you killed me in the past, but I lied about remembering it. So that means you should be angry enough to kill me. So funny.
It's not about anger. I think it's just the, like, let's stop keeping up the pretense that, like, things can't go to what they were before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that still shouldn't be enough to kill somebody. But I guess she hopes that it'll be the straw that broke the camel's back. Bobby asks what the message was, and then we cut to Dean POV, and there's a gunshot. And he runs upstairs, and Karen has been shot to death. And yeah, whatevs. Sorry to this woman.
And Dean hears it, and he, like, goes in, and then there's, like, the shot where, like, he's still holding up the gun, but then Bobby turns around and it focuses on Dean, and he's doing his sad little frowny face, and, like, you were gonna shoot him. Like, you were gonna shoot her, Dean. So, like, I don't know. I'm, like, just so annoyed with Dean this episode.
He is annoying this episode.
Annoying ass.
Yeah, earlier when Sam and Jody were teaming up or whatever, like, she's decided that, yeah, we do need to keep the town safe and kill all the zombies. And she also mentions that they need to put everybody in jail because that'll be safe. And since then they've gathered a group of people to give guns to kill zombies. I would assume this is a small enough town that they know who died 5 years ago and who didn't. Right? Because or else I just feel like they'd just be killing any pale person that's around. Let's see. This is where Sam says that he's a friend of Bobby's to a resident of Sioux Falls, and he says that Bobby is the town drunk. But yeah, whatever. That's it. So they're all heading out ready to kill zombies, but I guess none of them get to kill any zombies because all of them attack Dean and Bobby at the salvage yard for some reason. And then we have a very boring fight scene, and yeah, it's like, it honestly feels like a video game, like the way it's just like a rush of random zombies, and then they go like shoot, 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 shoot. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And then, you know, just when Bobby and Dean are fucked, Sam and Jody come in and they shoot, 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 shoot. Where's the other people?
I don't know. In jail? Who knows?
Well, anyway, that all ends. Whatever. Who give a shit?
Yeah.
And then we go to Jody, Dean, and Sam in front of a pyre where they have just collected everyone and burned them.
Yeah, and like their family isn't here. Like,
Yeah.
it's just them. Like, you're telling me, like, nobody, like, cared enough to be involved in this?
Yeah.
You know what's really annoying is, like, Bobby has his special secret pyre for Karen only. Like, you're telling me that Jody Mills threw her 4-year-old son in the mass, like, grave and then burned him with everybody else and she didn't give a shit?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Jody's also here.
Yeah. Like, there were multiple losses here, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, Bobby was, you know, joined by Sam and Dean in his very own special little funeral pyre.
Yeah, joined by the two people who were like, we need to shoot her. Can we please shoot her, Bobby? Let's shoot her, please. The whole time they knew Karen.
And he goes like, sorry for not shooting her.
Even though I did.
He says, I lost my head back there. And Sam's like, Bobby, you don't owe us anything. Oh yeah, Dean's like, well, at least you got to spend a couple days with her, right? And Bobby says, yeah, and it just makes things worse. She was the love of my life. How many times do I gotta kill her? Well, just the 2, Bobby, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And Sam goes, are you gonna be okay, Bobby? And yeah, Bobby's like, well, but Karen told me something. That was here because he came for me as like a threat. Because I'm holding you back from saying yes to Lucifer, Sam.
Like, his manager is somebody that he cares about enough that he's saying no to Lucifer? I doubt it.
Well,
like,
anyway. Huh?
No, I mean, Sam and Bobby do care about each other, I guess.
Or do
they? I guess.
Nobody
I don't know.
knows.
Okay, like, the logic is that Sam doesn't want to let Bobby down, so that's why he's saying no to Lucifer? Like, I don't know how true that is. Like, it seems like he's just saying no to Lucifer because it'll end the world. That seems pretty bad already.
Yeah. I don't know. Well. Yeah, Bobby said they were going to take my life or my spirit. They just
so
want me out of the
dumb.
way.
So dumb. They wanted to make me so depressed that you'd be okay saying, like, yes to Lucifer? What?
Yeah, and Sam says, but you're gonna be alright. Yeah, Bobby? And then, you know, we get a zoom out to show us that Bobby not sure if he's
not
gonna be alright.
He is gonna be alright, though.
We see him like a month from now, he's fine.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, this was an episode of Supernatural.
I feel like we both came into it saying more positive things about it than we came out of it feeling.
Okay, so what did we like this episode? It was fine, honestly.
It, like, the experience of watching it was fine, but I think as soon as you, like, think about it, like, at
In
all, you're
any
like,
way,
this is the
yeah.
worst thing that's ever happened.
Best line, worst line?
Oh, God. So many worse lines.
I mean, I really don't like Bobby dismissing
Karen.
Karen.
Yeah.
I think he says like leave us for a bit or something.
Yeah. I
Give us
really
a
didn't
minute.
like the like, he's my husband, I'm supposed to bring him peace, not pain thing. Like, okay, I hope Jeremy Carver never gets married or divorces if he is.
Let's see. Is Jeremy Carver divorced? Jeremy Carver. Let's see. Okay. He developed the series Being Human, Doom Patrol,
His wife.
Frequency, and then Supernatural showrunner.
He
He's
and his wife
married
developed Being Human together.
to Anne Frick or Anna Frick.
Yeah.
So sad. I hope they get divorced.
Unless Anna Frick is actually having a good time, in which case, okay, don't get divorced.
Yeah. Well.
Well, best line. I mean, I really do like when Dean goes like, "But where is family?" Like, I think that is that. Like, that's Dean. Like, that's correct. Like, you
indicative
got
of who
it.
he is. I do like the bit because, like, earlier in the episode, Bobby goes, "What? You're gonna listen to Digger? He's the town drunk." And I was like, "Bobby, you're also a drunk. Like, what is this?" And then later on, there's the reveal that like he's not actually like the town drunk. That's Bobby, and Bobby was just deflecting by calling him that. I thought that was like a nice like gag. I guess is it a gag or like a callback, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I like that
something.
one. Yeah. And Sam being embarrassed to be caught like believing this lie.
Yeah.
Spread sheets. Spread those sheets, baby.
Misogyny inherent to the episode.
It
I
is
would
so
say.
inherent. It's unreal.
So, like
4?
3, 4, 4,
Or 3?
Yeah, I think I was thinking 4 during the episode.
Okay.
Should we do a thing where we go back because we forgot
Yeah.
about racism in multiple episodes
Yes.
somehow by the end? Okay. So in in Swap Meet, Busty Agent Beauties made an appearance, and we usually just give
That's a 1.
a racism
Yeah.
point whenever it exists. Secondly, in The Song Remains the Same, like I feel like every time
Uriel's
Uriel was on
betrayal.
screen, we just went like slave, but like the actual like it was bad. Like they continued to portray him as this flat character who only desires violence, and it sucks. And I mean, I guess we already give the Uriel points when he died, but I feel like we should still like because this is his last appearance. So should this be more of like like an overall Uriel thing, or should it just be
No,
Uriel
it's just
within
like
the
an
episode?
extra, like an extra thing, I think. Because
Yeah.
we did treat that one like Uriel's ending. So
Right.
this is like an additional to that. You know,
Yeah.
the thing about Uriel is like I always forget that like Supernatural intends it differently. Because like when you and I talk about it, I do think of Uriel as like he's so cool. He wants to kill Samadhi. That's so fun.
Exactly.
Like me too, buddy. Like this is just the human. This is like what everyone decides to do. So it's fine. And then I
but
like
we're
I
supposed to
forget
see it
that
as like he's the most evil being alive.
Yeah. So
Okay. So
Anyway.
that like one just because he was such a small part of the episode, or
I think a 1 or a 2. I think I can argue for
I
a
think
2.
I'll give it a 2 because I feel like we often undercount racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Sorry. Racism. I don't think there's anything.
I
Is
don't
there?
think
I
so.
don't remember.
Yeah.
Please.
We often don't remember, but I'm pretty sure there isn't.
Yeah. Homophobia.
Yeah.
You said there was a homophobic line, which I
I
was
think
like,
Who Died
that's
and
not
Made
true.
You Queen could be read as homophobic, but I don't care about it enough to argue for a point if you don't feel the need to give it a point.
Yeah, I'll give it a 0.
All right. Cool. We
Cool.
did it.
So, ratings.
IMDb. I have no clue because I had never heard of this episode before now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to guess first. 8.3.
I was already thinking, oh, I'm gonna give a low score, but apparently that's not low enough. But I'm giving an 8.5.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. It's an 8.4. We're tied.
Good for us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, what have people been saying? You know, this one points out that like, okay, this one says good emotional episode with a mystery and one of the better action scenes. Obviously, this is a show. I don't mean to drag the obvious point that Bobby having a permanent resident makes 0 sense. I don't agree.
Why does it make 0 sense?
I don't agree because Bobby does occupy a different kind of hunting niche versus Sam and Dean, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, like, Sam and Dean, like, always didn't have a home. Like, they always didn't have a place of residence. Versus Bobby, who started out hunting with already a place of residence.
Yeah, he'd
So
already
that's a
paid
different
off his mortgage by the time he started
Yeah.
hunting. Like, why would he give that up?
And he already has a business. Like, come on, dude. And number 3, like, I actually like the idea of Bobby being a presence in his town. Like, I think that's so interesting.
Yeah,
like,
I thought
there's
it was so fun that, like, he tried to do his fake FBI thing and, like, people in his town were like, I recognize that voice.
Yeah. And also, like, I like, because, you know, there was a moment where I was like, I forgot that, like, Karen is going to be back here. I think, I only remembered when after Bobby bailed them out. So they're like walking down the hall, right? But like when he was talking to Jody, I was like, oh, like this is like about Jody's kid and he's like covering up for Jody's kid.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And I thought, like, in that moment, I was like, well, that's nice that he's, like, trying to stand up for and be there for his community. Like, that's rather nice.
Yeah.
So I completely disagree with this concept that, like, it doesn't make sense. Not only does it make sense, like, it can be a good thing. Like, that's a good concept as well.
Yeah. Agreed.
Everyone's talking about, like, it's nice because it's emotional. Well. Oh, this one points out that another horseman, it must be Thursday line, which I also did enjoy. It must be Thursday, of course, being a joke over the fact that Supernatural airs on Thursdays.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. You know, it airs because it's Thursday night, meaning it's Friday morning for me. So, when I was watching Supernatural, like, religiously, and I had school, right? So, and, like, I would spend, like, the entire morning being like, oh, I can't watch Supernatural. It's airing right now and I can't watch it. And then every Friday we have, like, a 2-hour campus break or whatever where nobody has classes and you're just supposed to do other things. And I did not join a single organization when I was in high school. And I spent a lot of those universal breaks, like, I don't know, like, looking up what happened that day in Supernatural. What a wonderful time in my life. That was also kind of horrible.
Yeah. What's the supernatural post that's like, remember who was there for you at your lowest, and then it got edited to read, remember your lowest.
Literally. Okay, so that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week we will be discussing season 5, episode 16. Do you know?
Yeah, it's the Dark Side of the Moon.
Hell yeah! So leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is babpod, BABpod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.